November 14th, 11:42 p.m. The small, isolated town of Silver Falls, Montana, was freezing under a blanket of heavy winter fog. Inside her vintage wooden cabin, Emily Carter was packing her camera gear for an early morning shoot. She was a 26-year-old freelance photojournalist with shoulder-length chestnut brown hair and striking green eyes. Her ordinary life shattered instantly when her phone vibrated on the old oak table. The display showed an unknown encrypted number. When she answered, a desperate, familiar voice whispered a terrifying warning before abruptly cutting out into static, changing her quiet life forever. The voice belonged to Marcus Vance, a local environmental researcher who had mysteriously gone missing exactly 3 weeks prior. Everyone assumed he had simply walked away from his life, but his panicked words proved he was running for survival. Emily. They found out about the core samples. Don't trust the county emblem. They are coming to erase the evidence tonight. Shock coursed through Emily's veins as the call went dead. Suddenly, bright, piercing headlights cut through the thick outdoor fog, sweeping across her living room walls. Someone was pulled up right outside her driveway. Emily dropped to the floor, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Heavy, calculated footsteps crunched against the frozen gravel outside, moving directly toward her front porch. There was no time to pack or think. Grabbing her digital recorder and car keys from the counter, she scrambled silently toward the small kitchen window at the rear. The brass doorknob at the front entrance began to rattle violently, followed by a heavy metallic thud against the wood. Desperation took over as she unlatched the window, stepping out into the freezing forest air. The sub-zero Montana air bit into her skin as she plunged into the dense, dark pine woods behind her house. Behind her, the sound of splintering wood echoed through the trees. They had broken down her door. Flashlight beams began slicing through the dark forest canopy, scanning the snowy ground for her fresh tracks. Emily ran blindly, her sneakers slipping on the ice-covered pine needles. She knew these woods well, but in the pitch blackness, every shadow looked like a pursuer. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath her feet, sending her sliding down a steep, rocky ravine. Emily crashed into a thick snowdrift at the bottom, gasping for breath as pain shot up her ankle. Above the ridge, the sweeping beams of flashlights moved past, missing her hiding spot by mere inches. She held her breath, pressing herself against the frozen earth until the voices faded into the distance. Crawling into a nearby drainage culvert, she finally pulled out her digital recorder to examine Marcus's last audio transmission. As she enhanced the static-filled playback, a secondary background noise became clear, the distinct rhythmical clanging of a deep underground mining facility operating nearby. Silver Falls was supposed to be an old, decommissioned mining town, its shafts sealed since the late 70s. Why would an underground facility be active now? Marcus must have discovered that the local mega-corporation, Vanguard Industries, was secretly digging beneath the protected nature reserve. Emily knew she couldn't go to the local police. Marcus had explicitly warned her not to trust the county emblem. Her only option was to reach the abandoned surveyor's cabin 3 miles away, where Marcus kept his private backups. But as she stepped out, a sudden mechanical hum echoed directly above her. A surveillance drone hovered right above the tree line, its red camera lens blinking down at her like an evil eye. Emily bolted into the thickest brush, abandoning the main path entirely. The drone pursued her through the canopy, its high-pitched motor buzzing relentlessly through the cold night air. She dodged between massive redwoods, her breath forming thick white clouds in the freezing atmosphere. Up ahead, the rushing waters of the Blackwood River roared violently. With the drone closing in behind her and no bridge in sight, she faced a choice that could end her life instantly. Emily didn't hesitate. She threw herself off the icy bank into the black, churning river currents below. The freezing water hit her like 1,000 knives, instantly draining the strength from her limbs. She fought violently against the undertow, gasping for air as the current swept her past jagged rocks. Her heavy sweater dragged her downward into the abyss, but she fought with every ounce of survival instinct left in her body. Crawling onto the opposite muddy bank half a mile downstream, she collapsed, coughing violently, shivering uncontrollably as hypothermia began to set in. Knowing that staying still meant certain death, Emily forced her frozen legs to move. She staggered through the dark forest, guided only by the distant silhouette of the abandoned surveyor's cabin on the ridge. The storm was worsening, ice crystals cutting into her face. Finally reaching the weathered wooden structure, she threw her weight against the door, collapsing inside. The air was thick with dust and decay. She scrambled to the floorboards beneath the old desk, prying them open just as Marcus had described. There, nestled in the dirt, sat a heavy, military-grade encrypted laptop. Emily booted the laptop, its harsh blue screen illuminating her shivering face. The hard drive was locked by a complex, multi-layered encryption protocol. She plugged in her digital recorder, using the unique frequency from Marcus's final call as a makeshift bypass key. The decryption bar began to tick forward agonizingly slowly. 5%, 12%, as she waited in the dark. The laptop's built-in webcam suddenly clicked on by itself. A live video feed popped up on the screen, showing the interior of a dark, moving vehicle, and the person driving it made Emily's blood turn entirely to ice. Staring back at her from the screen was Sheriff Thomas, the man who had sworn to protect Silver Falls. He was driving a dark SUV, holding a radio receiver, his face twisted in a cold, ruthless expression. The live feed was streaming directly from the dashboard of his patrol unit. He was tracking the laptop's GPS signal in real time. "I see you're online, Emily." A synthesized voice boomed from the laptop speakers, overriding the system. "You should have stayed out of the woods." The headlights of his approaching vehicle suddenly swept through the cabin cracks. Emily grabbed the laptop, refusing to abandon the data that Marcus had sacrificed everything for. She kicked open the dilapidated back door of the cabin just as the front entrance was violently kicked off its hinges. She burst into the blinding snowstorm, the wind howling around her like a wild animal. Sheriff Thomas shouted behind her, his voice amplified by a megaphone, commanding her to halt. Bullets began to tear through the trees, snapping branches all around her. She ran toward the old logging railway track, the only path leading out of the valley. The logging tracks led to a rusted iron trestle bridge spanning a deep, rocky canyon. The wind screamed across the open drop, making the narrow wooden ties slick with black ice. Emily stepped onto the bridge, balancing precariously over the deadly drop below. Halfway across, she looked back to see Sheriff Thomas step onto the tracks, his service weapon drawn and aimed directly at her chest. The blizzard raged around them, a white void threatening to swallow them both. He smiled coldly, knowing she had absolutely nowhere left to run. "Give me the laptop, Emily, and I can still tell the town you went missing in the storm," Thomas yelled over the howling wind. Emily looked down at the dark abyss, then back at the man who had betrayed his oath. "Marcus knew the truth, and now everyone will," she shouted back. With a surge of defiance, she activated the laptop's satellite uplink button, which she had pre-configured to broadcast upon full decryption. The screen flashed a bright, solid green, upload 99% complete. Angered, the sheriff took a slow, calculated step forward, tightening his finger on the trigger. A sharp gunshot rang out, echoing loudly through the snowy canyon. But it didn't come from the sheriff's gun. Thomas gasped, dropping his weapon as a dark figure stepped out from the snowy tree line behind him, holding a hunting rifle. The sheriff collapsed onto the tracks, wounded. Emily stared in absolute disbelief as the falling snow revealed the identity of her savior. It was Marcus Vance, battered, bruised, and wearing a torn winter jacket. He was alive before Emily could even speak his name. A low, ominous rumble vibrated through the iron framework of the bridge beneath their feet. The old iron trestle bridge was buckling under the extreme structural stress of the storm and age. Marcus screamed over the roar of the wind. "Emily, jump to the ledge. The bridge is going down." A massive iron cable snapped with a sound like thunder, sending the wooden ties tilting violently into the void. Emily didn't look back. She lunged forward, throwing her body toward the rocky cliffside ledge at the end of the tracks. The laptop flew from her hands, sliding across the ice as the center section of the bridge collapsed into the darkness below. Emily slammed hard against the frozen rocky ledge, her fingers clawing desperately into the snow and ice to keep from sliding off. She looked up, gasping for air, her muscles screaming in agony. Just inches from the drop, the military laptop lay face down, its status light still blinking faintly. On the opposite side of the broken gap, Marcus was trapped, cut off by the destroyed bridge. Before he could call out to her, the bright, blinding searchlights of multiple Vanguard Industries corporate helicopters cut through the clouds, illuminating the entire canyon in a harsh white glow. The helicopters hovered like giant metallic predators, their loudspeakers demanding full surrender. Emily managed to pull herself completely onto the flat surface of the ledge, dragging the laptop with her. The screen was cracked, but the green progress bar was frozen at 100%. The data had successfully uploaded to the cloud server, but it required a final manual confirmation key to broadcast to the global media network. As corporate tactical teams began rappelling down from the helicopters, Emily realized that surviving the night meant nothing if she didn't hit that final key right now. With a steady hand, Emily slammed her finger onto the enter key. The laptop screen flashed a brilliant white, displaying a large confirmation message, "Broadcast complete, global media synchronized." Instantly, every file detailing Vanguard Industries' illegal underground operations and government corruption was sent to every major news network in the world. The tactical teams froze in their tracks as their communication headsets filled with frantic alerts from their corporate headquarters. The truth was out, completely irreversible. Emily looked up into the blinding searchlights, a faint, weary smile breaking through her pale, exhausted face. By morning, the quiet town of Silver Falls was swarming with federal agents, and Vanguard Industries executives were placed in handcuffs. The environmental scandal shook the entire nation to its very core. Yet, when investigators reached the remote trestle bridge, they found only the abandoned laptop sitting in the snow. Marcus Vance and Emily Carter had vanished without a trace into the vast Montana wilderness. Some say they are still hiding, while others believe they achieved their ultimate goal. The legendary late-night call remains the catalyst of a mystery that permanently changed America forever.